So I got 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If we could either go through the folks who are on Zoom or get them shown up here, I'd appreciate it. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Carolyn Bowers and Garen Murdoch are on Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, if we can also get their, the identification up on the screen, that'd help. And with that, if you'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to item number 2, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. We do have one correction where item 7 is for information only. Do we have any other additions or corrections? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Sorry, I move to approve the agenda with the correction of number 7 being for information only.
And number 6 as well. I believe we are putting off the employee handbook until.
No, I did. I thought we were going to keep it on there as we're going to modify it.
With the
With
revised.
modified, okay.
With the modified,
Okay,
yeah, the
check.
revised resolution and the revised version of the employee handbook.
Roger.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of making item number 7 an information only. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve the agenda tonight as modified. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item number 3. If we have, did we have anyone sign up?
No one registered. I know Mr. Fry had a public comment.
Okay, yeah, come on up. Be sure you hit where you get the blue light.
Hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Mike Fry, 11155 Falls Avenue. I just have comments on that previous discussion. We have 2 STRs and have had them for quite a few years. And so I come at this from the standpoint of an owner. I'll just make a few suggestions. Number 1, seems to me reasonable that what rules you put together in terms of parking and septic inspections and gas fireplaces and outdoor burning and so forth should be the same for every resident that it is for a short-term rental. I don't understand why those would be different. Seems if it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough for the gander. And if it makes sense, it makes sense for the whole town. What I also, this is obvious, but I just want to get it on the record. I think you mentioned something like $70,000 of revenue from licenses and so forth, the taxes. But you also need to consider that these vacationers, we get a lot of vacationers in town using short-term rentals, and they go downtown, spend a lot of money at their local businesses, and you get sales tax revenue from those. So you need to add to that 70,000 sales tax revenue when you're thinking about cutting back or somehow penalizing these people that are raising a lot of money for you. And I wonder why limiting the number of short-term rentals to the one owner. It would seem to me if you had fewer owners, you'd have fewer problems as the town. If you had one owner that had half a dozen or more, you got one person to deal with all of those properties. So it would seem to me that that limit doesn't make any sense. I also think the fine that I read about $250 a day seems excessive. There was one in here that I read that if somebody didn't have a license and they were caught, they'd get a fine of $250 a day for every day they rented it without. I mean, if they didn't know about this and they hadn't heard about it and they were just renting to their friends and relatives, that could be one heck of a serious fine for somebody that was just really unaware of the whole thing. And not everybody in town knows what this is all going on. And I do have a question about if a person has a cabin here in town and they stay in it a fair part of the summer, but when they're not here, they rent it out to friends and relatives and charge some kind of a nominal fee to cover the utilities and whatever other costs. Is that a short-term rental? And does that fall under all these regulations or not?
The way it's defined now, yes, I believe that would be.
It would be.
It states that any rental for money
Even
under
even if
30
it's a
days.
nominal amount and it isn't a market.
Yeah, there's
Right.
nothing in the language that distinguishes that from
Okay.
anything
You've got to
else,
get
so it's
close.
something the board could consider.
Okay. Like the fact that the current places are grandfathered, but with regard to the septic inspection, is that my 3 minutes? Okay. I'll just use a few seconds after the septic inspection. I mean, we have cesspools at all 3 of our cabins. And we've never had them inspected and we've never had them pumped. And I don't even know where some of them are, but I put bacteria enhancers in once a month that apparently the liquids go out through the rocks and the bacteria eat the solids and turn it into liquid. And so I'm not sure if we're having these things inspected. Why are we doing that if we don't have everyone in town inspected? I understand if you have a whole lot of people and your number is greater than the house should hold. The other one, real quick one is, we have 2-bedroom places, but we also once in a while have a family with 5 people, 3 kids, and 2 of them sleep in the bed and 1 of them sleeps on the couch. So I think 2 times the bedrooms is a little restrictive. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. Do we have others? Yeah, go ahead. And like, again, make sure your blue light's on.
Looks like it's on. Liz Ives, 10790 Florence Avenue. Don't own a VRBO, short-term rental, have 6 around me. I cannot say that I have any complaints about any of them. I could say I have more complaints about my noisy neighbors with their mufflers, or the guy that parks over the drainage ditch who lives down the street. That'd be my complaint, but not the visitors. So with that said, how many people rent VRBOs? I know I do. Any of you else do? Okay, I know Sean does because I take care of that for him. Nate, I don't do it for you. So with that, I want to say that, you know, there's rules in place. I mean, when I go on, I want the nicest place I can afford, right? So they have to have a 4.8 star rating out of 5 for me to even look at them. And then all the rules. And if some of the rules seem outrageous, then I may not want to rent them, but most of them are very straightforward. And then we have to sign a contract, which is also a part of VRBO. So I feel somewhat you guys are getting a little into the weeds, because with VRBO, they also charge you insurance. So if you skate around that, I mean, and we have before, we've done it in Florida a few times where they contact us and say, you know, if you don't pay the insurance or don't go through VRBO, you won't be charged that. So with that said, I think some of this about the bedrooms, I mean, some places put in enough beds into 1 bedroom so that they can sleep 5 in a 2-bedroom or 8 in a 3-bedroom. I know that my one neighbor, which you guys all know, Jesse, they decreased their size of people or amount of people they allowed into their place because of just because it was rough on the house, not because I called him up and said, dude, this is too loud. Only done that once and it was quiet in a couple of minutes. So I also think that this local agent having to be available is not fair, because if that was me, if I'm on vacation, I'm not available. So you're saying that I have to be available 24/7 to a short-term rental owner who's responsive to his people who are renting from him, because he wants that 4.9 rating or 5-star rating, right? So I think we are getting too far in the weeds. I think we have some people who are upset in our town with a couple of their short-term rental people living next to them, but I still think it requires us to be neighbors. And that's really what it comes down to. We all have to be each other's neighbor and say, you know what, that was too loud. Can you not let them back? Or, that happened to those people that I called Jesse on. He's like, nope, they'll never be written for me again. So, and, they get blackballed themselves in VRBO world. So that's what I got to say about it. I think you guys need to move on to things that matter to me. Roads, though Catamount got worked on today, so I was going to complain about that too, but I'm good now.
Okay, any others? Either there or on Zoom, either here or on Zoom, I mean.
It's like Carolyn. Go ahead, Carolyn.
She's muted.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
I had a really stupid question. Where can I find,
Sorry,
oh.
can you just say your name and address, please?
yeah, my name is Garen Murdoch. I'm at 10905 Hondo Avenue. Some of these rules that I'm hearing about, again, this is a little bit of a stupid question. I'm coming in sort of late. Where do you find all of these? Just so one can make sure they're being compliant.
They are on town municipal code, and I can send you those links if you want to email me, clerk@gmfco.us.
Clark at GMO. Okay,
gmfco.us.
got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Was that all the comment you had?
Yes, at this time, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I think Karen, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
you can
Now
hear
we
me.
can.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm Carolyn Bowers and my cabin is at 10880 Belvedere Avenue. I just had a quick question and about is there any reason why y'all can't Zoom the work sessions before the board meetings? I would like to make a comment that I'd like to suggest that maybe you could Zoom the work sessions as well.
Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, the board will take it under consideration.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Last chance for public comment?
Okay, with that, we'll proceed on to item number 4, our consent agenda, minutes from September 20th. Any comments, corrections? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda of September 20th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda from September 20th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes. Item number 5, our proclamation for Indigenous Peoples' Day. Mr. Frost, we had you down as potentially wanting to maybe make some comments on this.
Put my spectacles on so I can see what I'm reading. I want to thank the mayor, members of the council, general public and citizens, and those who are in attendance here for the meeting. This is regards to Indigenous Day with the youths. My name is Kenny Frost. My great-great-grandfather was Chief Nanise, who came through this area along with other chiefs into the Manitou and Garden to God's area about 115 years ago. 115 years ago, is that correct? But when the youths were here was 150 years ago. So it's been a long time coming. And similar to what I've done, we did the same thing in Glenwood Springs where the youths were there in that area 37 years ago, that all the three tribes were in that area too as well. But in the Glenwood Springs area, the hot springs, that was basically the heart of Ute country at that period of time. And so it brings a great honor to be able to be here before you and to have the city do a proclamation for the Utes, to the Utes, and to remember that the people of the past that once lived here. I was involved in the city and county in Denver, where the city and county finally got rid of the Columbus Day, the word Columbus Day, and added Indigenous Day. And that proclamation was given by the city and county back in 2017, but almost about this time, or 2 days prior. So we got a picture of that one as well. So it's good that many of the cities are changing from Columbus Day to Indigenous Day, something that has been marked as a national movement across the United States, President of the United States correcting history. So it brings me great honor to be able to stand here and to be the great-great-grandson of Chief Nanise, who rode through here. We do have a number of great-great-grandsons and great-great-granddaughters who will be here this weekend from the previous chiefs of the Ute tribe coming here and attending as far north as Wyoming with the great-great-grandson of Chief Uray. So it's going to be pretty historic. And when you really look at something that's being historic, this is what you're doing here today is a historic measure in honoring the youth with this proclamation. So I want to thank the City Council and for doing this and being a part of this and playing an important role to treat each and every one of us as equal as possible. And that's something that needs to happen across the United States. Heavens knows we need to all work together. We only have one place to live. We should try to make it as best we can to try to get along together, not only for sake of our people or the grandkids in the future, but also to preserve and protect this land that's called Earth, or what we call Mother Earth, so that everything will be good for future generations to come. So I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart, and that this happens and everything be good. And most importantly, being a law enforcement officer, we say prayers and blessings to the people who wear the shield, whether they're wildland firefighters and law enforcement too as well. So I should ask of that too as well. So thank you. No one.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and read it. And then what we'll probably do is maybe take a real quick short recess where you can all sign a copy and then we actually have a frame for you to put it in. So.
The other question, since proclamation is being read here, which is good. The proclamation for Manitou Springs is going to be read at the gathering down there. Are you also going to be including that?
Yes, I plan on being down at the Manitou Springs at 10 o'clock, I believe is
Yeah, I think that's
when
what
it's
scheduled.
when it's scheduled for. I think they have activities for Saturday and Sunday at various times. And I do have something I'll post out on Facebook.
Yeah,
And, you know, I've got a flyer of some, it doesn't have, I don't know if it has enough specific location information because I'm scratching my head on a couple
Right,
locations.
yeah. yeah, because I think it would be good for also to be present down there.
Yep.
To represent city at Manitou Springs.
Yep.
Because when you really look at the mountain communities and adjacent communities, is close proximity to one another. We're basically neighbors, so I think it'd be nice.
Yeah, I
also
plan
be
on
there.
being down there. I also plan on maybe having a couple of extra copies to hand to. I know the mayor down there said he was going to have, you know, maybe a couple to
Right,
hand out, a couple of extra copies. So I'll have a couple extra copies to hand
yeah,
out as well.
okay, yeah, I thought I'd mention that while I was thinking about it.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, great.
Thanks for the reminder because I need to post a flyer.
I know, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this is a proclamation recognizing Indigenous Peoples' Day in Green Mountain Falls and also in a way recognizing the rededication of the Ute Trail. Whereas in 1912, Ute warriors rode horseback over their traditional migration route into Manitou Springs to formally dedicate the Ute Indian Trail and to commemorate its importance as the passageway between the mountains and the plains. And the whereases kind of get me out of breath. Whereas this valley was a place of pilgrimage for the Utes and other native peoples who venerated the mineral springs as places of spiritual power and peace. And whereas the Ute Indian Trail remains an important recreational, cultural, and historic asset that enhances the quality of life for our community. And whereas the people of Green Mountain Falls cherish these amenities and take great pleasure in recognizing the importance of the native cultures as part of our history and identity. And whereas we highly value and appreciate the goodwill of the Ute people, the host nation, in rededicating the Ute Indian Trail. And whereas we wish to honor all Indigenous peoples and extend our friendship to them and to have them share with us the great beauty of this valley. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Green Mountain Falls Board of Trustees hereby proclaims Monday, October 10th, 2022 as Indigenous Peoples' Day. We call upon our citizens to recognize and celebrate the culture and contributions of the Indigenous peoples to our community, dated this 4th day of October 2022 in the town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado. And we will need to take a vote on this, right? Is that right?
You may vote if you wish.
Trustees, we'll just do a quick motion to approve.
I would
Second.
motion to approve the proclamation recognizing Indigenous Peoples' Day in Green Mountain Falls, recognizing the rededication of the Ute Trail as well.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proclamation recognizing Indigenous Peoples' Day in Green Mountain Falls and recognizing the rededication of the Ute Trail. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No one better oppose. But I have to ask, any opposed? Okay, with that, I'm going to recess us for about 3 minutes while we get some things printed out, and we'll have all the board members sign the proclamation and we'll get it into the frame. So reconvene it's 7:26. We'll reconvene at 7:29. Well, right now we can just do the one, but when we leave, we'll need to get the other two.
But I can go ahead and start. I'd love a copy. I'd love a copy. Oh. And Mr. Frost said you could share his contact information with. I'll share his contact information. His is on. I should get up and move around too.
Yeah, these marathon sessions kill people.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Terrible.
Just sit down again.
Right.
So scan or copy?
Yes.
This is a dolphin.
It's like, give this. Okay.
Yeah, I really, I only have one,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful to have two. For scar release.
Oh.
And, but I know this really helped Jesse. I know he ordered one for himself.
You say
So,
like, yeah.
Yeah, it works great for a lot of things. He didn't really need it so much for scarring, but we did work on his scars. 'Cause a lot of times a scar, even if it doesn't hurt, is kind of causing problems. You know, because it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of fascia, but it's, yeah. So a scar will kind of pull on it. So just like a net kind of distorts things.
Right. Yeah.
So if you can release it, it can really help. Even an old scar, you know, decades old. Make a difference. Yeah, and it, you know, you don't have to be a professional. It's really designed for people to use
Home use.
for themselves. Yeah, it's really great. It's great for pain in general, but arthritis pain, it's great. I don't use it that often on myself, but you know, and I was like, oh, my knee is starting to complain when I go up and downstairs. You know, I give myself a 5-minute treatment, and I'm good for months. So I don't think I have arthritis. I don't know what that is, but
Right. Yeah. They're gonna have to order me pizza if they go over 2 hours again. Bring me a snack or anything, something to drink. Jeez. Town's gonna have to buy me dinner and keep going with these long sessions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mayor, you want me to send you the latest schedule? I have it just now.
Fantastic. GMF. DIXON. It really is. Turn on.
Guess GMFDIXON@gmail.com.
Yep.
You're getting the Indigenous schedule that went in the paper. It's the closest we have. It's very close. And it has all the locations. All you have to do is ask them, because it's like in between.
Yeah,
There's no addresses.
yeah, so it's like, okay, and I probably will contact Dylan Graham as well and say, right, where do you want me? Yeah.
What are they calling it, Scott? Or Todd, sorry. What are they calling it?
I'll have to. It's basically, right, there's different things happening. But it's Indigenous. Indigenous very much.
Is it on their website?
I'll show you the flyer
Oh, okay.
after we're done.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Did you switch chairs?
No, I would try to be a little more clever than that.
Okay. So we went a little long at 7:33. We'll reconvene the Board of Trustees meeting. We are at item number 6, the employee handbook updates.
Oh, that's,
There we go. So you have before you a revision of the employee handbook. This lists out a couple of different items that are revised to include Indigenous Peoples Day, also Juneteenth, and then cleans up a couple of portions of our operational procedures to include a portion requiring that town staff, while in town vehicles or on town business and personal vehicles, utilize their seat belts and comply with other state of Colorado safety laws, as well as utilizing any hands-free technology and demonstrate distraction-free driving practices. We also added some language to ensure that this compliance with safety practice is in alignment with any disciplinary actions set forth in that chapter 9 of the handbook. Also in your packet is a copy of that employee handbook, and we can certainly pull it up and answer any questions that you may have there.
Trustees, questions, comments? This was one of the items we discussed in our work session, so we did make a couple edits to it. If there's no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve item 6, the employee handbook updates with the agreed upon changes.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the employee handbook updates with agreed upon changes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item 7, our 2023 budget consideration and our first draft. And please keep in mind, this is our very early first draft. We have our final draft is due in December, the end of December. And so we have plenty of time to work out any bugs.
Would you like a little explanation on this one? Okay, so the staff approached this from the same template that was used in prior years. We felt that it was the one that you're most comfortable with, you're most familiar with it. We have identified a couple of areas where it is going to need some formatting cleanup. Really this notice of the budget just satisfies that statutory need for the town to be presented with a draft budget. We are currently in the middle of our audit. We anticipate having for your review the audit report on October the 18th. That is your regularly scheduled budget meeting where we've got the day planned out for you to discuss the budget. Beginning at 9 a.m., we have scheduled at 10 a.m. our auditor, Kyle Logan from Logan and Associates, to present that report. We will also, in the meantime, prior to, this budget really is a working document. It is from this point until your adoption, it is an opportunity for us all to kind of look at what our operational expenses are, compare those with our revenues, and have an opportunity to identify areas in the community that you would like to utilize any remaining funding to invest in. We will begin our day on October 18th, as I said, with an overview of revenues and expenses from 2021. We will, and some staff observations. We will then go into your audit report, followed by some committee presentations. We expect to hear from the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee, as well as the Parks, Rec, and Trails Committee. They have been working diligently upon work plans and other recommendations for projects that they would like to have you consider for funding. And also identify some additional departmental staff needs. From there, we will have a couple of different opportunities to review and revise the budget prior to final adoption, which we hope to have scheduled for your meeting in December on the 13th. At that meeting, you can expect to adopt a final budget, make appropriation of those funds, and set the mill levy as you did last year. And then we are working towards a deadline of December 31st, in which time that budget and the budget resolutions need to be submitted to the state of Colorado. Are there any questions there? Like I said, this is a very preliminary draft. When we are looking at the audit, we will be able to get a better paint a better picture of your revenues as well as your expenditures for 2021. Additionally, some of the things that staff looks at are how they've been trending over the past several years in order to be able to make that year-end projection for 2022, as well as propose a budget for 2023. Some things that we are noticing is that revenues this year from grants and intergovernmental revenue, that's a lot of those grants, you are going to see that that's going to come in a little bit lower. The town had several grants that were open in 2021 and 2022. Some of them carried over because of the inability to accomplish those projects during COVID. Those projects are now nearing completion, And we will see that. I don't think that this figure here is a final representation of what those intergovernmental proceeds or those grant funding opportunities can be. So you can expect that to change. Additionally, if you were to look at our tax revenues, you can see that it is certainly trending upward over the last couple of years. And we expect that with those additional short-term rental revenues, that will continue to be there. I do want to say that when staff was looking at the proposed budget, we were very conservative with what we felt revenues would be, and just not knowing until we get the audit report what those actuals will be. We wanted to approach things from a very conservative perspective. But other than that, you know, your revenues are quite stable.
So one of the things that we probably want to do as a board, do we want to set any kind of like constraints? For example, we have a, I'm going to call it a savings account. That's not the right term for it, but we basically have some excess revenue. Do we want to set a certain percentage of our revenue off the top going into that basically savings account? Other things would be like, are we gonna want to me, I would not want to entertain any kind of mill levy increase. Do we want to set that as a constraint, say we don't want a mill levy increase? Things like that. So I would think that would be something we'd probably talk more on the 18th, trying to figure out what constraints we're going to put our staff under, as far as our budget. And then we start working from there.
When was the last time we had a mill levy increase?
It's been a while, but I think any tax increase, any tax increase has to go to the voters. Mill levies don't. Is that right?
You set the mill levy. We'll make sure that you've got some additional information on that. Staff, we were able to spend a good deal of today with your new DOLA regional manager. He was able to take a look at this budget. There were a couple of things that we identified that we really wanted to clean up and make easier for you all to interpret and easier for us as staff to manage. So those will be things that will be forthcoming. And he's certainly available as a resource for any of these questions that we have as well.
Real quick on this, I was trying to identify it earlier this evening, but are there line items for dues for the grants that we owe money, match money, like the $40,000 that cumulatively over the next couple of years just for fire mitigation purposes alone?
So we did include that in that match for that grant into this budget. There are several other grants that we know that are out there that are going to require a little bit of match or a little bit of support in one form or another. Those are all things that I think that we'll have to take into consideration. As Mayor Dixon alluded to, there's a certain amount of money that the town will have to keep in emergency reserves. Any remaining funds, I think that you all will have to determine whether or not you would like to continue to build up a reserve or utilize those to accomplish projects that are needing to get done. So,
but again, just to confirm, like we're going to be able to pay off this year. That's the money that's due, like the
for 2020
for a worm, it's like almost 20 grand.
The 2022 match with CUSP.
Yes.
That was
for
budgeted
worm.
for.
Okay.
Yeah. For 2022, and I included it in some preliminary numbers for 2023.
Okay.
And where do we see that? Is it here yet?
Yeah, it's within your budget, and you may have to refresh these numbers. As I said, are in flux, and until we've had some of those conversations and shift things around. We'll have to identify where they settle, but yeah, on the Parks and Recreation, that services oh no, that's wildlife mitigation, not wildfire
I
mitigation.
think it's mislabeled.
It is, I think it's goofy. Yep. But I did put the 15,000 in there. We don't need $15,000 worth of wildlife mitigation. Please don't be confused there. So I guess what it looks like is I intended to put it in there, but it ended up in the wrong spot. I apologize. We'll make that correction. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you all through some of these.
Trustees, any other questions, comments? A lot of things will be probably addressed on the 18th.
18th,
So take a good look and, come prepared to get into the weeds on that, on the budget.
I really appreciate using this template. So we can, easily see past years. And there have been some years when that wasn't used. It was just, it's really hard to, to trace how things change or stay the same.
I think that for the most part, we're going to continue to use this template. It's just it's little things where we've got 3 line items dealing with administrative building use or land use stuff. And it's 3 tiny little piles. I think that it's little things that we can clean up into one line item versus 3. But I don't think that you're going to notice anything drastic to where it's not continuing to tell the story.
Thank you.
So again, there will be probably another itemization of all the grant money that we have to pay by
Yes.
the end of this year.
I think we will need to include,
Yeah, for next year.
there's, in particular, there's a couple of unknowns. The GOCO grant that has been submitted for fire mitigation
It's like $8,000.
has an $8,000 match. I would recommend the town budget for that. There's a potential that we might have another organization that might like to assist with that grant match and be a partner in
great.
this project, but it's not
great.
something that I want to count on just in case.
Yeah, we also have like $2,500 for SFA, right? Is that what we have? And like another like $16,975 for the foreworm that has to be due by 2022. Is that correct as well? So we can get all the stuff.
There was, I think, $15,000 for wildfire mitigation budgeted this year, which is what we've been working with CUSP.
Yeah.
Towards. So yes, we just received an invoice for that.
Okay.
What's the SFA?
I'm pretty bad with acronyms. I guess we can get together a little after this and figure where we're at on that, because there's going to be a considerable amount of money that's going to be owed by the end of this year to a lot of those organizations, I believe. So I think there's like a $5,000 commitment for the next 3 years for that SFA, whatever that acronym is for.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay, we'll get together after this then.
Trustees, any other questions, comments? And there's no action associated with this. Part B says we're supposed to publish.
Yes, so
Is that via this?
we'll go ahead and publish tomorrow for the paper on the 12th, next Wednesday.
If there's no other questions or
I
Go
just
ahead.
have a question about the timeline. I mean, I understand why, why it looks like it does. I was just wondering if there's any room for moving it up if things move along.
Absolutely. If we get to our November 1st meeting and we are ready to go, then we'll just make sure that we post for our public hearing then and get it done.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I'd love to have it done early.
Okay, since there's no other questions, comments, we'll move on to item number 8, our reports. Trustee reports, and I'll start with Trustee King today.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Sean,
I don't have anything.
Catherine?
Nothing. Thank you.
I would just note that, yeah, I'll try to get that. I do have a flyer for the events coming up in Manitou Springs. I'll try to get that out on Facebook. Like I said, I'm a little confused with some of the locations, but hopefully, I mean, it seems to be the flyer they've published, so I'll get clarification from the mayor for myself, so I can attend down there with our extra copies. I would also like to remind folks that if you are hiring someone to do something to your house, please make sure they have a business license. We had an incident at our own, well, it's my brother's now, but the family place. And I had to let them in, and one of the first questions that I asked them was, do you have a business license in Green Mountain Falls? And I got blank stares. Now the company doing it can have the license. They were subcontracting for the company actually doing it. So yeah, the company doing it did not have a license either. So supposedly they got one today, but I would remind folks that if you're paying someone to do something on your house, they need a business license here in Green Mountain Falls. In fact, if they do any kind of business, you got to have a business license here in Green Mountain Falls.
Can I change my mind about a report?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just something that may be helpful to to some of the issues with the STRs. You know, I've been consulting with folks about the Chamber of Commerce website. We're working on building a new one, and you know, of course, branding is a huge thing. And in a recent discussion, STRs came up, and you know, it was described as you know, the chamber could actually kind of steer things in a more family-friendly direction rather than, you know, like it sounds like the issues are with people who are not necessarily families, but who are, you know, thinking of this as a place to party. So I think the more it's described and attracts families, you know, we might have less of those late arrivals, less of the late night noise. It just might decrease some of the problems we have and really just make for a better community. And I hadn't really thought of using the website as a tool like that, but it makes a lot of sense to do so.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports to go over?
No, none received.
Okay. Staff reports.
Nate and I reported last meeting, but I know that the marshal has something prepared for
Okay.
you.
Sorry that I was late. Didn't get this to you.
Got one, thanks. No, she just gave me.
Okay. You can see the calls for service. We had 30 in the last month. One that was interesting was the warrant arrest that we had. myself and Under Sheriff Cox from the Greenwood County, Kansas Sheriff's Department were trending #1 on YouTube for a video that happened. They had a lady who got in trouble with some methamphetamines, and she was in Zoom court. That got recorded and put on YouTube. They coordinated with us while they had her on, and it turned into quite a little fiasco because she lied to the judge about where she was, got caught, tried to get the judge to quash the warrant, and she strung this girl along until we were able to get there and make that arrest. So it was quite a thing that happened. So if you would like to watch it, it's a girl gets arrested on Zoom. You put it in there. It's a half an hour long. It's kind of interesting thing. You can see them string her along until I get there and arrest her. So that was probably the most exciting thing that happened, I guess. Other agencies assisting us, El Paso County and Manitou Springs assisted us twice. We assisted other outside agencies, El Paso, Woodland Park School District, and 3 times. We assisted. Sorry, 5 George 41.
Making sure you're at the office still.
I am. Thank you. Never fails. Every time I get up here, I'm still out at the office. Thank you.
Happy to.
I attended 2 training classes. One is the dam break tabletop class. It was an exercise in what happens if I had no idea that we had 26 dams in Teller and El Paso County. Zero idea that we had that many. I can tell you it was interesting. The scenario we went over was the Rampart Reservoir Dam breaking. I can tell you that if that happens, people at the Air Force Academy are going to be in a world of hurt very quickly. But it was interesting to see they ran a model of where the water would go, and it really goes straight down Colorado Springs and down into Pueblo. And they did a time lapse of how the water would move, and it's alarming to say the least. But I did also learn that a lot of our dams have significant safety features, and the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. So Deputy Starks has been outfitted and his training is coming along very well. Hopefully, I think we can step up his timetable a little bit. He's latching on quicker than I kind of figured he would. So it's very good. We do have court tomorrow with 1 citation in it, and that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
That, I hope it's not an outcome that the cat is stuck in a tree.
No, that was the owner was contacted, and the owner said that the cat will come down, and the cat came down later that evening. So it was okay. The cat's good. So I could also talk to you guys. Also like to hear about parking complaints. We had, I believe, 3 parking complaints. None were about trails. One was about a short-term rental, and the other 2 were just random ones that didn't have to do with either one. So.
Okay, trustees, any more questions, comments?
I know you addressed this before, but I can't remember what are we to do if there is somebody parked in, like in the right of way?
If it's something where you feel like the marshal's in town, if it's during my work hours, the daytime hours, it's fine. In the evening, if it's blocking something that can't get around, if it's on a one-way road where we have houses at the end of that block, then call dispatch 390-5555, and they will have me come out, and we will get it cleared up as quickly as possible, either with a tow truck or a contact with who that person is.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we tow? And if we tow, where do they go? Because I've actually been asked that.
So if it's something that's in the right of way that we can't get moved with a contact, we can tow it. It generally goes to, we don't have a contract tow company. we will get whatever the next available tow company is through El Paso County. They'll come up and get it and it'll go to their yard. We will also, if they come and want to figure out where their car's at, we'll tell them it's at Fred's Towing lot or whatever. They have to go to that lot, pay those fees to get that out of their lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. No other staff reports or any other reports. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 9 is our correspondence. And we included the short-term rental comments we've received. Any other correspondence?
I did get a question from the public of how come the names were blacked out on the correspondence?
Just for privacy, just consideration.
Were we consistent?
I think so.
Okay, trustees, anything else? If not, it is 8:01 and we are adjourned.